I've had it at the back of my mind for some time now that I really wanted to do some of my favourite tiny moments in the series. Everyone has already covered the giant set pieces to death, the famous emotional moments, the pool scene, the car scene, the money scene. But I meant the tiny little moments that kind of where I really appreciated their attention to detail, or I just thought it added more to the moment, and I just wanted to give some comments on them. The first tiny moment is where James pulls her aside to offer her money. He is a complete jerk in this scene, and we're not supposed to like him, and I don't. But there's just something funny about the way, after she stabs the money back at his chest, he grabs her hand and he says, Warte, warte, which means wait in German.
Warte, warte, wir sind hier noch nicht fertig.
The next scene is when he tries to bribe her again, this time with his body. She turns him down, but there's a moment where they hear a sound and Ruby pulls him aside. And he kind of says, if you've changed your mind, I'm not sure I'm still in the mood anymore. And for some reason, his delivery of this totally cracks me up. Like, it's a serious moment, but it is so funny.
Auch wenn das bedeutet, dass du deine Meinung geändert hast, ich weiß nicht, ob ich jetzt noch in Stimmung bin.
The next moment is when Ruby's talking to Alistair at the lacrosse match, and James is distracted and gets tackled. It serves him right. I don't feel bad for him. It is so funny, though. Also, a lot of people at this time speculate that it might be jealousy, even though, Alistair's gay, but of course we don't know that at that point. But it's just a really interesting moment and quite dramatic, and I find it hilarious. The next is the moment at the welcome dance when Ruby realizes that James is the one that's hired the strippers, and she goes to confront him and she grabs his hand and pulls him around. I think this is the only time she does it to him, but I do think it's fair enough that she grabs him because he does that to her so often in this series.
Oh!
Also at the dance is the moment when Ruby starts to cry, possibly tears of rage, and so one single tear trickles down her cheek, and then James reaches out to wipe it away. Some people think that this is tender. I don't. I think he's still being a dick, but I like the fact that it's like a physical signal that she's upset. He's noticed it. He hasn't processed it properly, but he will. The next moment I've covered in more detail in my discussion of Lexington's office scene, but this is actually just the first moment where James looks over at Ruby when she doesn't rat on Lydia, and you can see there's some sort of comprehension in his eyes that he may have misjudged who she is and the situation. After the seriousness of a lot of what's gone on already, this next bit where they both start bickering and squabbling is very funny because it calls back to the screwball comedies that I love so well. Like, they're just talking over the top of one another, and it's actually very funny, comedic, and it shows that these two can be funny, and it also breaks up the tension of the moment.
Ich kann ihn beim Komitee nicht gebrauchen. Er ist unzuverlässig und arrogant. Wir haben nichts miteinander gemeinsam.
When James's Victorian theme prevails and then he gives Ruby a triumphant look, it's actually super cute. And even though I know that they're still at the enemies phase here, the look that he gives her, the response she gives him, and then the cute nose wrinkle is almost quite playful and flirtatious, and I love it every time I see it. When Lin Wang and Ruby are trying to decide who has to talk to James, they do a little game where one of them has to put their finger on their nose first, and whoever does it first wins. First of all, this is very funny, but secondly, I like the fact that it's clearly something they've done so many times because they automatically resort to it. it shows a sort of a long-standing friendship between the two of these characters that I find really endearing. Everyone goes on about the dance scene, and so do I, and I've got a more detailed discussion of two parts of this scene already. The one I'm going for here is that moment after the very cute little mutual shoulder waggle that they do at one another as a dance move, and then the camera pulls back and they cut loose, and it is super adorable. And this is when you know it's not going to be cringy, it's going to be amazing. I've covered the texting sequence in another video in more detail, but this one is just that moment where Ruby's been texting James on the bus. She steps off the bus and she sees that he's waiting for her at the bus stop. It's super, super cute. And then they walk to school together, and this is like 2 or 3 of my romantic tropes that I love, all tied up into one. So I have to give a shout out to this particular tiny moment. Also from episode 4, which is what I call the happy episode where cute, sweet things happen, James gives Ruby advice on how to manage some of the critical stares. And I just love this tiny moment where she's kind of, playing out his advice and he pretends that he's filming her. And it's just super cute and playful and sweet.
So lässig, so unaufgeregt. Ich habe gehört, James Beaufort hat sie auf den Arm getragen. Ah, was sind Glücksfans.
Ich meine, whatever.
Oh, sehr gut. Wenn du das noch ein bisschen übst, glaubst du dir irgendwann selbst. Vertrau mir, ich mache das, seitdem ich klein bin.
The next tiny moment is one that I actually almost missed a few times when I was thinking about tiny moments, but it's when James knows that he can't come to the donor ball, but he waits for her, and then they have a cute little exchange where he says, if he misses me, I can send strippers. So I really like this scene. It's very funny. I do feel sorry for Kieran, but I like the fact that he's waiting for her almost like he's her boyfriend.
Großer Abend.
Nicht nur für mich.
Ich kann dir auch ein paar Stripper vorbeischicken, damit du mich nicht so sehr vermisst.
I mean, this little shove. How cute is that?
Hol dir dein Empfehlungsschreiben, Ruby Bell.
After James unilaterally breaks up with Ruby in episode 4, and he ignores her when they walk past one another in one of the corridors, there's a moment where Alistair's at his side and he kind of glances back and he looks baffled, apologetic, confused. And I think it's just really sweet that he at least is he at least cares. The last scene is in the bar at Oxford, where Alistair's really upset that Cash is talking to a girl, so he sort of overdoes it. James tells him that what he's doing is too much, a bit over the top. And then when Ruby walks past, James looks all emo. Alistair tells him, well, you're one to talk.
Das sagt der Richtige.